Hey, this is Dr. Joe Borio with this week's Health Kick. First off, I want to wish everybody an awesome Merry Christmas. I hope everyone had a great holiday with their family and their children and Santa Claus. And for those that don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you had a great holiday season. And for those of you that are celebrating Hanukkah, I hope you guys had a great Hanukkah season. I wanted to share with you today a little bit about genetics. My son Joey's helping me out today with our video. We thought we'd do something outside to make it a little bit more fun, change the setting a little bit. I was just reading another study on genetics, and what I wanted to share with you is that you actually are in control of your genes. Now, what the heck's that mean? That means we're all made of DNA, and our body has chromosomes in it, and they're in the cell, and those cells basically allow our body to function properly, and DNA basically makes proteins, not to get too complicated, but it makes building blocks or protein structures of the body. Now, they basically give us our blueprint. We've kind of heard of that definition before. What does that have to do with today's talk? And that is, we're seeing now through science, though we've known this through clinical suggestion, if you will, but now science is showing us that we're actually in control of our genes by our activity, by our lifestyle, by our mental thoughts, what's called autosuggestion. Basically, what you do determines how healthy your genetic structure is. So yes, we're given a blueprint, but the great news is that blueprint isn't set in stone. That basically what you think, how you act, what you eat, and what you do greatly determines how well the genes function and what the blueprint is going to make. You can actually change your genetic structure. So what they're doing is they're taking people and they're putting them on a healthier lifestyle. By that, let's say we're going to include exercise, which we talked about the last couple of weeks. So you take a bunch of people and they exercise, and it improves their genetic structure. What we found was the DNA, the chromosome actually shortens or it shrinks as we age. So that means the genetic structure changes a little bit. It shortens. Some of the genetic coding is lost just through the aging process. It's called a telomere, not to get too, the tail of the chromosome, not to get too complicated, but the reality is when we exercise, the genetic structure is retained, that the genes actually do not shorten, and therefore more DNA is salvaged or saved, if I can put it simply like that, and therefore you're more whole, you're more intact of the initial blueprint that you were intended to be. We also see people that auto-suggestion, what you think, positive thoughts, people that are thinking negative thoughts, people that are depressive, people that have different types of psychiatric issues tend to have more genetic problems as they age, where those people are able to turn it around. Those people that are able to focus, have more positive auto-suggestions, affects their DNA in a more positive way. What we also see is our diet greatly. What we find is that our diet greatly affects the DNA. So how we eat, what we choose to eat, and the type of foods we put into our body greatly affects how healthy the DNA is, our genetic coding is, as we age. So the choices we make every day greatly determine our DNA. And why that's great is we're coming into a new year, right? We're coming into January and everybody has resolutions. So as we move forward, it's something to think about and how powerful it is. Because I think what I find with most patients is they're so short-term in their thinking. By that, what I mean is they think, okay, if I make good changes now, that'll make good changes in my health over the next few months. I want to lose a few pounds, I want to make a few changes, what have you. But what I really realize is that most people don't think that what they do now is an investment for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years out. So as a young person, what you do now can greatly affect the next 40 or 50 years. As somebody in my age group, 45 years old, 46 years old, in that age group, what I do now can greatly affect how healthy I am 45 years from now if I'm at the half-point way of my life. So when I'm 90, what I do today will greatly determine my health, my genetic structure at 90, which determines what? My level of disability, my level to interact with community, to interact with my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, what have you. So what our decisions are greatly affect that outcome. One other point I want to make is that what we find in the genetic structure is, in coding, is that it changes the coding for the next families down the road. So what I do today, if I'm in child rearing years, if you will, if I'm going to have children, which I'm not at this point, but Nothing against my wonderful son who's videotaping today. But if I choose to have more children, or you're somebody who's choosing to have children, obviously the better your genetic code is, now that'll change the coding for your children. And that'll change the coding, they say, for 3 to 4 generations. So if I'm somebody that takes lousy care of myself, I smoke, which is a bad choice, certainly. It doesn't make you a bad person, but it's a bad choice, right? Or I eat lousy foods, or I don't exercise, or I have lousy thoughts. My genetic code is poor or less pure than it should be. Therefore, I'll pass that on for several generations. So that damage to my DNA will actually be carried on for several generations unless they make positive changes to undo or turn it around, if they're able to fully undo that damage. So when we see people, for example, that we say genetically they're heavy, that's true, but they have the ability to change it, and they certainly have the ability to change it for their children by taking on a much more healthy lifestyle. That's how powerful that is. The last study I'll talk about, which is, it's a little bit more scientific, but it's on serum thiol levels. That's a protein in the body that helps protect your DNA. And there was a study that came out a few years ago by Dr. Kent, and they showed that by receiving regular chiropractic care, by getting the spine adjusted and keeping the spine in good balance, keeping the nervous system healthy, keeping the messages flowing like they're supposed to, that allowed the body to better protect the DNA. And we didn't see those positive changes unless the person was under regular chiropractic care, meaning a minimum of 1 time a month for 18 months or more. So people that were receiving short-term care didn't have that benefit. People that were receiving long-term care or used a chiropractor like you should, more like a dentist, where hey, I'm going to go in once a month to keep myself healthy. Those people have very positive effects with their genetic coding over the longer period of time because their serum thiol levels were much higher. So real interesting stuff. But the beauty is you are not permanently fixed with your DNA and your genetic code. That's the beauty. It's your choice. It's your decision. And the decision today, coming into 2011, would be to make better health choices. Therefore, your future and your children's future will be better. That's how powerful that comment is, because if you then take that, extrapolate that comment towards your children, hey, maybe you've made some changes that are positive, but your kids, knowing what they eat, knowing what they think, knowing what they're doing exercise-wise, can greatly affect their future and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. So it's very powerful, great information, something to think about. If you're wondering about nutrition or exercise or other great topics, just punch in Dr. Joe Borio Health Kick, and we've got a whole series over the last 6 months of all different types of topics on diabetes and exercise and nutrition and autosuggestion and all kinds of great stuff. Listen, guys, I can't wish you the best of a new year 2011. I wish you health and wealth and happiness. I hope your families are great. I wish you wonderful blessings. And this has been Dr. Joe Borio with this week's Health Kick. Remember, I want you to eat well, exercise, drink water, get a good night's sleep. I want you to talk really good to yourself up here, that auto-suggestion. And I want you, your mother, your father, your kids, your great-grandkids, and everybody you know that you come in contact with, make sure you're under regular chiropractic care. Have a great, healthy, wealthy, and happy new year. I'll talk to you guys next week.